All right, welcome and good afternoon once again as we begin our, plenary session number 4. Thanks for everybody. And if I mentioned the figure 6,504, would that mean anything? 6,504, that is the amount of money raised this morning by Rise students in their Pound the Pavement for Polio. The students from 6250, $1,804. The students from 6270, $4,700. So congratulations. We are here today collectively, and it's my first opportunity to be at a collective district conference. I've been to a number for my home districts, no matter where I was a Rotarian, but this is a new experience for me. Doesn't just happen, right? To make a Tricon possible. So here from the Rotary Club of Holmen to offer a few words about this collective of our 3 Rotary districts, past District 6250 Governor Dean McHugh.
Well, that guy looks young, doesn't he? Good afternoon. Thanks for being here at Tricon. The organization that he mentioned I'm the chair of is the Rotary Great Lakes District Conference Council. Tricon is easier to say, so we go by that. But one of the things I'm going to tell you a little bit about is the difference between the council and the planning committee, the people that are actually putting on this event. We all know the 3 districts that are here. We've heard plenty about that. Our 3 governors, Michelle, Don, Julia. There's 150 clubs in those 3 districts, about 6,000 Rotarians. That's who we represent here. What is the council, where I'm the chair? As Tom Guyett used to say, I'm sure Tom's probably still here somewhere, but when Tom had this role, Tom would always say, the council builds the house. We do the things like the bylaws. We fill the positions. We change the structure of things if we think it needs to be. We do the budgeting. We keep the finances. We do things like that. The planning committee, the conference planning committee, they furnish the house. So we have that house that's in place, and each year the planning committee and the district governors for that year finish that house the way they'd like to see it and the event they'd like to put on for you. So that visual always helped me when Tom would explain it that way, so I hope it helps you. One thing I do want to do, I want to thank the people that are part of the council. Past District Governor Jeff Reed, running around with the headset. Jeff is the vice chair of the council, and he will take that over in the 26 and 27 years for Tricon. Also, I believe that Steve Handrick and Nancy Lohberger might still be here, both from 6220, longtime members. Steve, treasurer of the organization. You here somewhere, Steve? And Nancy, I see Nancy. Yep, Nancy Lohberger, secretary. They both will be outgoing at the end of this conference, but yes, please thank them for their service. And I know we also have with us, because he's right straight in front of me, but past District Governor Sridhar, who is our nominations chair. And Sridhar helps to try to make sure we have folks in all those positions to keep this thing running for you year to year. Thank you, Sridhar. I'd be remiss not to mention Jason Beren. Jason is the conference planning chair, and him and his team put all this on for us. Jason will introduce some on his team and talk a little bit more about what they do, but it's a big role. I know Jason's put in a lot of hours to make this successful, and I thank him. Together, the 3 districts have made this the last several years a rotating event. We try to have it in each district on a rotating basis, so it's a little closer each time. Every 3 years, it's at least somewhat close to your home, hopefully. A couple of highlights. I would say that those who know me know I like to have a good time, but I will say that prior to last night, I probably could have honestly said I've never been to a party that had 3 margarita machines, a karaoke machine, and everybody in the place wearing a tropical cap with the Rotary logo on it. But now I can't say that anymore. But what is district conference to me, and why do I give of time to try to make this a successful event for all of us? For me, it's about the one-to-one conversations we have here. I know there's been discussion about the council and legislation possibly making these non-mandatory. Well, just because they're non-mandatory doesn't mean we can't have them. And I think there's tremendous value in them, because those one-to-one conversations that we have at lunch, that we have at breakfast, that we have in the hallway. Last night I was talking to Bob from 6270. I don't know where Bob went to sit now. There he is. Bob's a membership chair in 6270. Shared some great ideas with me about how he's rejuvenating clubs there. So I now have Bob as a resource to help me in my own club and in my own district. Talked with Greg and Pam this morning at breakfast. We've heard from Trustee Greg a couple of times, and the things he's been doing in Africa and the organizations he's cooperated with that are not Rotary organizations, and some are Rotary organizations, and just the huge impact they've had. That's what conference means to me. It also means seeing friends like Ed and Di and Rick and so many others of you that I see once a year here at conference. And I will say, and I think this is probably true for many of you, I've been a Rotarian for 17 years. I was a charter member of our club. I would say probably 90% of the positive changes that have happened in our club in those 17 years have come from conversations our members have had at conference with you all. We share those things. I know it's difficult in these post-COVID times to get people out. I know costs are always a consideration when you have things like that. But hopefully all of you that are here in this room saw that value and will continue to support this endeavor. Next year we'll be in Brookfield, Milwaukee area. I hope to see you all there. I hope many of you will do what Ben Bauer did and bring a brand new Rotarian like Kaylee to this thing. Because the more people in our clubs we expose to this, there's probably 70 to 80% of your club members that have never been to district conference, I'm guessing, on average. But you bring someone here, you show them this bigger picture, you give them that enthusiasm, then they, like you, can continue to impact your club, your community, and your world. Thanks.
Thank you, Dean, for your leadership. I'd now like to introduce a name that was Dean referred to just a couple of minutes ago, our 2024 Tricon Conference Chair. He's a licensed mechanical engineer, senior project engineer at Pearson Engineering, served as Madison's club president in 2018-19, and in his spare time leads swim safety instructors for the Ironman Wisconsin Triathlon. So I expect no delay in his arrival on stage. Please welcome Jason Beren.
As conference chair, I would like to express my gratitude for all of your participation and support in making this event a huge success. Without your presence and enthusiasm, this conference would not have been possible. I'd also like to extend a special thanks to our conference planning committee members who have devoted countless hours of their time and expertise to ensure that every aspect of the conference was executed flawlessly. I don't want to miss anyone, so their names are up on the screens. So now, will our conference planning committee chairs and vice chairs please stand? And remain standing. Okay. When I call your names, everyone stay standing. And by the way, you're going to be standing for a long time. I promised Jeff Reed, our stage manager, that I'd get this done in less than 20 minutes. And without my glasses, I can't see that clock down there. Jeff? He's getting the hook ready? All right. So, up on the screens, our registration team, Cindy and Nikki, Dennis, who led our marketing group, Workshops, Martha and Sarah. Sponsorships, Judy and Harry. Diane hosted our speakers and president's rep. House of Friendship and the Pound for Polio Walk coordination help by Susan. Our ambassadors, Rob and Mark. Then facilities, helping out, move everything around, get everything set up, Deb and Gary. You'll be receiving an evaluation, and Todd put together our evaluation that you should see in an email on Tuesday. Nikki, who helped out with our great PowerPoint slides. Our photographers, Don and Shri. And also, let's thank our MC, Tom Milborn. So let's give a round of applause to our conference chairs and vice chairs. Now again, you guys stay standing. Will all the members of our marketing and workshop committees please stand and remain standing? So we have shout outs to Michelle, who created our constant contact email campaign with the cool countdown clock. I keep obsessing about that. Melissa, who created our Tricon look, and Lynn for her pose. Also, if you don't know it, Don Griffing, DG Don Griffing, jumped in and helped out with all of our website stuff. And then we have both of our Nancys, who are integral parts of the workshop committee. Let's thank those committee members, too. Helping support Tricon are what I call our aligned district committees. So we have our foundation chairs. Could the foundation chairs from the 3 districts please stand? Rob's already standing. Kathy from Polio and 6250, please stand. And also our Rotary Youth Exchange chairs. Could you please stand? Let's thank them. Now, if you've served as a volunteer at registration, an ambassador, a workshop host, maybe at the polio booth, or any other volunteer position, please stand and remain standing. I want to also express my appreciation for the entire team who worked flawlessly behind the scenes to bring this conference to fruition. From the logistics team here at the KI Center, their setup crews, catering staff, servers. They had a really cool app, so when we were out of coffee, I could just click, I need more coffee. Their event coordinators, Leslie, and managers did a great job supporting us. Also, our friends at Magic Productions. So let's thank them all for their support of this event. All right, you may now sit. As you can see, it takes a large group of volunteers to put on a conference like this. So please consider joining our conference planning committee for 2025. We extend an invitation to you, yes, you. Envision yourself as an integral part of this team, helping shape future conferences and keeping with Rotary's theme for next year, and let's create magic. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and thank you.
So thank you, Jason, for all that you've done for us. All of the stuff that he has done behind the scenes to make sure that this all happens. Now, I'm also here because I have the privilege and honor of presenting the Rotary International Meritorious Service Award. This award recognizes an individual of Rotary who demonstrates outstanding active service to the Rotary Foundation. It is a member, the last time the district 6270 recognized this member was back in the 1990-91 Rotary year, 33 years ago. This award recognition goes to a member of the district who has many, many years of outstanding service to the Rotary Foundation. This person is a past district governor, a major donor, and a member of the Bequest Society. After completing her term in June of 2012, she has continuously served to support the Rotary Foundation at the district and/or the zone level. Please help me in congratulating Nancy Rhodes for her meritorious service to the Rotary Foundation. Nancy. Nancy, we appreciate and value your enthusiastic service to the Foundation, and we thank you for all that you've done to ensure continuing success to all of these vital Rotary programs. Again, congratulations on receiving this prestigious honor.
Thank you. I promise my remarks are very short. I was certainly surprised and very humbled when Don Griffin called to tell me that I was chosen for this award. Rotary has provided many opportunities that I probably would not have had if I had not been a Rotarian. For instance, doing things like medical missions in Guatemala, giving polio immunization in India, being a GSE team leader to Tasmania, even being a district governor, and working as a senior sergeant at international meetings and coordinating our joint 6220 and 6270 first $1 million journey. And I have to correct Tom. He said we raised 2.1. We actually raised $2.8 million. Thanks to generous Rotarians. The Rotary Foundation has been my passion for a long time. It's the engine that drives everything that all the doing good in the world that we accomplish, even though we are likely to never see the people that we help. Rotary is the only organization that I know who gives some of our money back. And as you well know, once it's given and 3 years later we get money back, and districts get to choose how they like to use those dollars. I'm going to quote Dr. Lucille Rosenberg, who was a trailblazing pediatrician. And she said, I quote, "I believe that money is a means to make the world a better place." So thank you so much for this award. Keep doing good in the world and providing service above self.
All right, congratulations, Nancy, very much for your many years of dedication and outstanding service to Rotary and to others. It is now my pleasure to introduce our next keynote speaker. She is Vice Chancellor for Advancement, Community Engagement and Inclusivity, Foundation President at UW-Green Bay. Previously, Secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services, and as an Assistant State Superintendent for Student and School Success at DPI. She served as the inaugural chair of the Governor's Equity and Inclusion Council and for 10 years on the Edgewood College Board of Trustees. Earned her degrees from the University of Virginia, Penn State, and her PhD in educational leadership from UW-Madison. She's also been recognized by Madison 365 as among Wisconsin's most influential Black leaders. She's also a former longtime member of the Downtown Madison Rotary Club. Please join me in welcoming Don Crim.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I want to thank District Governor Michelle McGrath and Jason Beren for having me here as a speaker today, and a shout out to Charles McClymans, our current president. My talk today is titled, "This is Not Your Grandfather's Rotary." Inclusivity is key, and it starts with you and me. So what I'd like to do first is, on the University of Wisconsin Green Bay campus, we open all events with our land acknowledgement. And so today I offer the land acknowledgement that was shared on December 11th, 2023 at the Tiny Earth Symposium, which is a research symposium for college and high school students. And it was shared by Sunny Pemicott, a sophomore at the College of Menominee Nation. There'll actually be sound in a moment.
The land on which we stand. Many of today's participating institutions occupy and conduct research on ancestral tribal lands. The Menominee land spanned northeast and central Wisconsin and extended south beyond Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. By the early 1800s, the Oneida had begun to move from New York to the Fox River Valley. The three tribes continued to move along the Fox River, eventually convening to negotiate for fertile and open land along the western Great Lakes. The three tribes eventually convening on this land on which we stand today, Green Bay, in northeast Wisconsin. Decades of ethnic cleansing followed when both the federal and state government repeatedly but unsuccessfully sought to remove the tribes from Wisconsin. The history of colonization informs our shared future of collaboration and innovation. Today, we collectively respect the inherent sovereignty of the Menominee, the Oneida, and the Ho-Chunk nations, along with the 9 other First Nations of Wisconsin. Thank you.
So I wanted to play that for you because when we think about the land on which we reside, that is our land's history. And so the first step in inclusivity is acknowledgement. Many places have land acknowledgements. I was a part of crafting one for the Overture Center for the Arts in Madison, Wisconsin. I worked in partnership with the Ho-Chunk Nation to get their insights as well as permission to create that land acknowledgement. At UW Green Bay, we are the only institution in the Midwest that has a doctorate in First Nation Studies. We have an undergraduate degree in First Nation Studies, and we have Elder Hour, in which several of those elders' family actually grew up on that land. Historical perspectives. When you think about Rotary and our grandfathers, and how much time has passed, we want to think about where we're going. But it first starts with the relevance of that historical perspective. So when you think about higher education, we're in a moment right now, higher ed is. Wisconsin's uniqueness is at one point, everyone 72 communities all wanted education in their community. Public education in the state of Wisconsin used to be supported by the legislature in a way that allowed for that presence in all of those counties. Now the state contributes 17% of that budget. This reduction has occurred gradually over the years, but the level and expectation of access to education has not. Unfortunately, the cost of education has risen, but wages have not kept up. So when you look at this slide, think about where education began, 1636 at Harvard. In Wisconsin, the belief that everyone should have education right in their communities. Currently today, to serve 5.9 million people, there are 71 institutions. UW system has 13 4 years, 13 2 years, plus 16 technical colleges, plus 18 private colleges, plus 6 technical professional institutions, 3 theological seminaries, and 2 tribal colleges for 5.9 million people. The birth rate in 2020 in our state, across the nation, is 10.4. In 1950, it was 23.9. So the relatively low birth rate in Wisconsin does directly tie to the projected number of high school students across the state, declining age, declining enrollments. As a result, when you think about there will be 5% fewer high school graduates in 2024 than there was in 2014. And so as the result of the pandemic and perceptions regarding the value of a college degree, 1 out of 5 Wisconsin high school graduates are now going to UW campuses as opposed to 10 years ago when it was 1 in 3. Let's think about Rotary from a historical perspective. Started in 1905 in Chicago by Paul Harris, the belief of service above self, knowing that to establish a club, you have to get the permission and acceptance of another club to start one, to charter one. Over time, changes has occurred to Rotary, as you see on the slide. In 1987, women joined Rotary. That's after 82 years in existence. In 2022, gender inclusivity went all the way to all the clubs, US and international. Congratulations to Jennifer Jones, in which she became the first president. And so I read an article recently that said for decades, volunteerism in America has been declining. According to a US Census Bureau and AmeriCorps survey, it dropped about 7 percentage points between 2019 and 2021. The survey found about 23% of Americans volunteered with a formal nonprofit, including churches, schools, food banks, and clubs like ours, at least one time in the previous year. Now, though, Rotary is seeing its strongest volunteer growth, but not in the United States, but in Asia, Africa, and parts of Eastern Europe. And this was quoted by CEO John McHugh from Rotary. So just keep those numbers in mind. Who's in the room today? We know District 6220 includes most of Michigan Upper Peninsula. According to my host today, it's an 8-hour drive from one county all the way across to the next, and we cross one time zone for that district. And what Julia Wallace shared yesterday is 50% of those clubs are over 100 years old, with the youngest club being chartered just 5 months ago. When you think about District 6250, it serves 28 counties in southwest Wisconsin and southeastern Minnesota. That's my former club. And then District 6270 has 58 clubs with nearly 2,500 members, representing leaders from all walks of life. And we learned yesterday that they were early adopters of e-clubs that were established by Greg Pod. And we heard that last night when he talked about Rotary International. So in the next few minutes, what I'd like us to do is just reflect on ourselves, on our districts, on our representation. This is how I came up with the title, This Is Not Your Grandfather's Rotary. Inclusivity is key, and it starts with you and me. And so what you're going to see on the screen next is a social identity exercise that I use when I work with companies regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's kind of small. I feel like Dr. Chris Carr yesterday, sorry. But what you'll see is across the top is this is about an awareness of self, an awareness of representation. So in the first column, you'll see social identity, gender, sex, race, ethnicity. Across the top row, you'll see the identifier column, in which how do you present across your life? And so if I'm just going to give you a few more seconds to just kind of look across. What you'll see that I've charted is I'm a female, African American. What stands out and what's affected most about my identities is my race. And so I am able-bodied, you'd see that down below. But these are just some characteristics of self that we each bring into the room when we're interacting with one another. So really think about those boxes in our districts and Rotary overall. Giving you a quick definition about diversity. From reflecting on those social identity factors, think about the boxes that you would have checked. Now think about this definition of diversity. Be wide-ranging when you think about diversity. Consider diversity of thought as well as diversity of representation. On college campuses today, you're seeing it play out in the news, freedom of speech, hot topic, because all voices should be heard, welcomed, and considered. When you think about equity, another reflection, think about Sonny's words in that land acknowledgement. Had Native Americans continued to own their land in Wisconsin, Indigenous people's lives would be very different today. The social mobility would be different if they were able to maintain the wealth of the land. Think about inclusion. Inclusion is about being welcomed in. It's about having your voice heard. It's about having a seat at the table and actually being invited to contribute, not just show up. So inclusion is truly about belonging. And so I'll share, when I was in my Rotary Club of Madison, I was on the classification committee. And so when we looked at the classification committee, we were assessing where classifications really stand now. At one point, there was a cap on the classification of which industries could be in or out. Why? As we began to think about industry changes, we began to think about classification and where it actually fits. So, how do we get from our grandfather's Rotary to the Rotary of today? Thinking about those experiments, I might have went a little far. Nope, thinking about the social identity experiments, we realize in these changing times, Rotary has to also change, just like I cited for higher ed. So when we're looking at our mission and goals, we have to be intentional. We have to be intentional about membership and recruitment, evaluating that membership, the policies, the practices. That's how we'll know who's eligible. And what does eligibility mean for Rotarians? When all are welcome, then what is the criteria that we should be looking at? This is really about pondering, about where we're trying to go and how we remain relevant. When I looked on the 6220 website, there was a top 20 list of recruitment for new members. And I just asked, please review what that recruitment is. Review how those members fit. Are those top 20 criteria current members or the members you wish to attract? When I looked at 6250, There also were 20 reasons to join Rotary. Again, cultural awareness was listed as part of that. Citizenship in the world was a part of that. Entertainment was part of that, and they actually showed that last night with our colorful hats. If you were 6250, you did not miss out. But things to really think about when we're thinking about what the Rotary Club of today looks like. How do we get from being our grandfather's Rotary to the Rotary of the day? Thinking about the experience. We've now moved away from recruitment and membership to what is the experience that people can know they will have by being a member of your club. And with that experience, does it accommodate different workforces, different times? Examine meeting times. 6270 has 58 clubs, about a quarter of them meet in the morning, about half meet at noon, and about a fifth or so meet in the evening. So meeting people where they are. Greg Pod talked about the E-Club 20 years ago. How many people are leaning into the E-Club? Milwaukee Amigos After Hours, 82637. That Rotary Club is a multilingual club with a passion for diversity in Milwaukee. Fond du Lac meets the first, third, and fifth Thursdays at 7 a.m. But they also realize everybody can't make 7 a.m. So they have a satellite club that meets the second Wednesday of every month at 5:30 p.m. So really leaning in to how people can feel included and connected and engaged to the experience. I'll share with you when I joined the Rotary Club of Madison back in 2004, 2005. Part of the ritual, because you know Rotary loves rituals, is singing. So there is a song. My first 2 years, I heard Edelweiss. Now, I love the sound of music just like everybody else. But when I looked around the club and saw the faces of the way people sang and how heartfelt it was, I got it, but it didn't speak to me at all. I was like, all right, we're talking about our homeland and fleeing Germany. How many people are descendants of the group that needed to flee Germany when we look around this room? Surely there's probably newer songs than the 1940s Edelweiss. So, rather than be critical and say, oh, they're not speaking to me, I joined the music committee. And part of joining the music committee, we talked about it. There was open communication and dialogue. I shared, I'm sorry, y'all, Edelweiss ain't speaking to me. How many of y'all does it speak to? And people were like, well, just saying. So in joining the music committee, we actually came up with a quarter of Elton John and Billy Joel. It was a good time. And there was people endured, and there were some people that were like, when was that? So you never know. But you got to try different things at different times to change with the times. What changes can you make to make it more inclusive? I think many of our districts do have an Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee, and I think that's great. But really lean into those definitions or what the definitions mean for you in your community. What I appreciated about what Michelle McGrath shared yesterday when she talked about the Legends of Lambeau, she talked about her work with Rotary Youth. And she said, and I quote, they are no longer talking about DEI. They are doing the work. And I will say, we've gone through a period where people are talking about it, but how do we actually do the work? And it was some of those changes that I talked about, evaluating process, evaluating policy, having a meeting that's engaging for all, meeting people where they are. That's how we lean into what we're trying to do with Rotary. but you also have to lean into the data. You have to look at the demographics of the community in which your club is situated in. You have to think about the workforce that also will populate your club. Some of the jobs that are around now aren't a part of the classification list that we were using 25 years ago. So we have to refresh those lists. Think about who we can partner with as Rotarians when we do this work as well. So some of the ways that UW Green Bay is leaning into the data and trying to be more inclusive. We have a modern mix of students. You would have seen in the newspaper this last week that UW Green Bay is the fastest growing UW institution. That's not a mistake. It's because Brown County is the fastest growing county in the state. And that growth is Latinx. We realize that that growth is also the growth of our student body. And so we have adjusted our mission. We are an access institution. Anybody who wishes to learn can learn on our campus. We are 51% first generation. We are 24 as our average age. We have more commuters than we have of the traditional 18 to 22-year-old residential college student. We have over 9,000 people who are lifelong learners, and that's going all the way up to 50s, 60s, 70s. We have lifelong learning institutes. We deliver more continuing education just behind Madison with those 9,000, right here in Green Bay. We are one university, 4 campuses. We have Marinette, Theater on the Bay. That community is celebrating that theater. We have Sheboygan and Manitowoc as well. And we're listening to the needs of those communities to say, how can we bring education to you in the way that you need it and what you need? We have staffed employee research groups. One is an employee group of color. Another, as our district governor, Greg, shared, they have and have distributed caregiver kits. We have an employee resource group that is caregivers because many of us know sandwich generation. Our students are living with parents who are taking care of grandparents. And so that caregiving is happening at every part of the life cycle. And so what I say to you, Rotary, is we have to lean into the demographics of who is in our communities, who is surrounding your district, your club, and what is needed. Who are the young professionals that are leading that should be a part of your club? That's how Rotary stays relevant. Who is employed in that area, looking at the employment data? That's how we stay relevant. And so when you think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, you want to really be inclusive and not just invite people to the table, to the party. You want to dance at the party with everybody engaged, because Paul Harris told us this is a changing world that we must change with. Thank you.
Don, thank you very much for challenging us to action.